All right, week 7 college football breakdown here. Got a nice Power 5 matchup here on Thursday night. Baylor traveling to Morgantown, West Virginia, taking on the Mountaineers. Seeing the road team, Baylor, 3.5-point favorites in this spot. A very standard total at 54.5. I I am going to lock in an official play on this game right off the bat. I'm going to lay the 3.5 with Baylor here as the road favorite. Listen, I think sentiment's a bit low on Baylor. Obviously, the last time we saw them was about 10 days ago when they played Oklahoma State at home. Ended up losing that game by 11 points. I think that's a pretty misleading final score, though. They outgained Oklahoma State. They moved the ball pretty well in that game. Two fourth quarter interceptions really kind of bit them in that spot, and was ultimately their downfall. The one thing I'll say about this Baylor team, though, that we knew coming into the year, and that's held true, that defensive front is phenomenal. It's among the best in the country. It's one of the most experienced units in the country. We knew how much they were bringing back on that defensive side of the ball. This is a West Virginia offensive line that's really all year. They've played to the level of their competition. I know West Virginia might have experience along their offensive line. I have little confidence that they just have the talent to step up in this type of matchup. I mean, we've seen it when they play teams like Pitt. Good pass rushing teams, as given this West Virginia offensive line fits. I think that applies here in this situation. West Virginia is also dealing with some pretty big injuries. Still without Charles Woods, one of their starting corners, and actually in their last game against Texas, lost their running back C.J. Donaldson to a season-ending neck injury. I was there. I saw that in person. Pretty scary stuff. I think that's a huge loss for this offense because with guys like Tony Mathis and Johnson, they just don't have that same level of explosiveness that a guy like C.J. Donaldson did. I mean, Donaldson was almost at 7 yards per carry as a true freshman, and there's a huge drop off without him. So it's hard to see West Virginia being able to establish much of a run going up against this Baylor front. From there, JT Daniels, I talked about preseason, thought he was a really good pickup for West Virginia and thought he was an upgrade for them at that position. Hasn't really played out that way. I'm not necessarily ruling out that he does improve throughout the rest of the year, but less than 7 yards per attempt this year. I know they're coming off a bye. West Virginia as a team, just kind of the theme that you can take away from this video. They've got good individual players, and there's things to like about this team, but they're not a good cohesive team. There's just too much to overcome, specifically in this kind of matchup. The one thing I'll say about Baylor's offense, can be pretty mediocre in the run game. Still don't think they're as good as they were a year ago in that area, after losing a guy like Abram Smith. But give Blake Shapen credit. I feel like he's actually proven to me that, he's not just a game manager, dink and dunk kind of guy. He has been, in some of his easier matchups, been able to take advantage in the vertical passing game. This should absolutely be an area where he feasts and, could even be over 10 yards per attempt because this West Virginia secondary is the worst unit on the field. I mentioned that they're still without Woods. Even if they can match up somewhat up front, even if they are okay against the run, they've proven this year that secondary is such a liability that it kind of all goes for naught. It's a really bad unit. They've allowed basically everybody with a pulse to be able to throw all over them. So I don't really see much reason why Blake Shapen and Baylor wouldn't be able to do so. I like Neil Brown. I think Neil Brown will land on his feet somewhere at a Group of 5 program. Probably going to be his last game here at West Virginia. Seeing as to how I think this is going to play out, I'm going to lay a 3.5 with Baylor here. I'll say it again. I think West Virginia has talent. I think they got things to be excited about in the future. It's just not a very good team. And in this particular matchup, going against a Baylor team that's good in the trenches and that can take advantage of some of their weaknesses, just think it's going to be too much to overcome. So I will lay the 3.5 with Baylor here. No real opinion on the total. I don't really think of Baylor as an over team because I do like their defense, and they don't really like to push the pace offensively. With that being said, I do think they'll be able to create some explosive plays in this one on that West Virginia secondary. So I am going to hold off on the total. Better look by far as an official 1-unit play. Baylor minus the 3.5 here on Thursday night. All right, wanted to address one more thing before we get out of here. If you've been watching the channel, if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll know that throughout this whole college football season, I've been coming on, either after each week's slate and more recently been doing some, weekly preview videos for the upcoming slate. And you'll notice that this week did not have an episode. I'm recording this on Tuesday night. And up until now, actually, I've been sick as a dog. At the end of the day, I'm not going to come on here looking like a ghost. It's a bad product. As much as I hate to miss a scheduled video, I don't think that's something that would have been a very good watch or listen on your end. So that's the only kind of blip in the road I expect here throughout the rest of the season. So it seemed to be on the mend. So excited to make the rest of these week 7 video breakdowns here over the next day or two. So picking back up next week, we'll have those weekly storyline episodes moving forward.